So I got a couple minutes. I'm gonna do a short install video for the Honda 300 4-inch lift kits. Kind of go over the different options that we have for them, how they're made, what we use, different materials, and just kind of give a bunch of details about them. Now the install that I'll be doing, I'm just gonna do an install on the jig that we use to build around, or the frame that we use to build around. So I'm not really gonna be covering the tear down part of it, but it's all pretty straightforward. I mean, if you're kind of mechanically inclined, and I mean, if you're willing to take on putting a lift kit on, you should have no problem disassembling your front end to put the lift kit on. But I'll try to cover everything in the most detail that I can cover it, and kind of show you a couple of tricks that maybe make the install a lot easier. One of the biggest things you need to know, if you order the lift kit and you order it without the axles, you'll need 2 Foreman 500 right side axles, and you need to order them for like a 05 model. If you order a right and a left, it will not work. The right side's like a 1/4 inch longer or something. I can't remember the exact measurement, but the right side's a little longer, and you need both right sides. So don't order a right and a left, and you got to make sure you get them for the 500. If you order anything with that, they're not going to work. And stock axles won't work unless you're planning on trying to sleeve some stock axles or something like that. But these axles are so cheap, you can get them off eBay or anywhere, just a stock axle. I wouldn't recommend really sleeving an axle. I'd just go ahead and buy some new ones and be done with it. Next thing is, we use DOM tubing to build them because it's a little stronger. We've had some people ask us about using just regular tubing to maybe cut down on the cost. We still do have the whole pre-order sale going on right now. So right now is probably one of the best times to buy them. We're going to keep that sale going for about an extra week. And then we're going to adjust price because the DOM tubing is going up. Now if something happens and the DOM doubles or triples in price, well, then yeah, we might look at using regular tubing. I want to stay with the DOM because it's a little stronger, and I kind of want to put out the best product we can put out. So I want to stick with the best material that we can put out. We don't have the option yet, but we will have the option to upgrade the Heim joints. We'll probably add that sometime this week, around the time that we end the pre-order sale. At the moment, they're coming with like an economy type Heim joint, just to keep the price down, but we will have upgrade options. We do have the correct misalignment spacers. So any of you Honda guys that's ordered stuff before, some of these shops, and I don't know what shops, I've just seen people send me messages, but some shops will send you spacers with your misalignment spacers, little washers. And it's because they don't have the correct misalignment spacers. We do have the correct misalignment spacers. So no extra washers are needed. We can build them around pretty much any kind of shock you want. What we're going to be installing was built around 420 shock. So if you have a 420 shock or 400EX shocks or 300EX shocks or 300 shocks or any kind of shock you want to build around, message us, make sure we have the shock in stock so we can build it around, and then we'll go from there. But we try to message everybody that orders a kit to go over the details as far as colors and different options that we offer for them. So if you order the kit and we haven't messaged you within like a week, please reach out to us and make sure that we're building the correct shock tabs for what you're wanting to use. All the kits will come powder coated a fine texture flat black. We can pretty much do any color if it's made in powder coat. We'll send you both websites that we use a lot. One is Prismatic Powder, the other is Powder by the Pound. Any color on there, we can get it most of the time within about 3 to 4 days. They do most of the time get us in 2 days, but we have ended up with like 3 or 4 days shipping before. Kind of depends on UPS, FedEx, and kind of how they're running. So we'll jump over here, take a look at the lift kit real quick, and then we'll set back up and I'll show you a quick install. So this is just one side of the kit, but this is basically what you'll get in the kit. Minus, this one has not been powder coated yet, so no matter if you choose a custom color or not, they will at least come powder coated black. Like I say, it says fine texture black. There's not a lot of texture to it, but it is a fine texture. It's not a flat black. You'll get 2 half-inch Heims for your steering, 4 for your A-arms, the correct misalignment spacers,
and misalignment spacers for the steering. And you'll get one pre-bent steering rod kind of set up, ready to go. Everything's fully welded. The only thing that you will not get in this kit will be ball joints. I myself would personally recommend replacing your ball joints and checking your shock bushings. If your shock bushings are extremely wore out, you can have some movement side to side. You also need to know, if you choose a 420 shock or something off the wall other than the correct 300 shock that it comes with, that you possibly will need to go buy some washers to shim your shocks. The 400 shocks are, I think, a 1/4 inch, maybe 5/16 of an inch narrower than the 300 shocks, so you're going to need some washers there to kind of make everything fit properly. These are just 2 nuts for the new ball joints. I have pressed a new ball joint, and this one just for the install video. It's an old ball joint on the spindle. Another option that we offer is building them around the 500 knuckles or spindles to upgrade for the disc brakes. This is what we have set up right here. We have it set up for the 500 so we can get the disc brake conversion. And we can set it up with the 300 or the 500. We have both ball joint pads, and we're going to be building some more soon. So that's the only knuckles that we're offering at the moment. We may get into some off-the-wall stuff later, but that's going to require custom axles and stuff and probably bigger lift kits. We will offer 6, 8, and possibly a 10-inch lift kit, but we can pretty much build anything if you're willing to pay the money for the upgraded axles, and those axles are expensive. I want to say around $1,200 or $1,300 for a set. So we'll go set the camera back up. We'll jump over here, throw everything together, and get going.
So one of the most important things you can remember when installing this lift kit is getting these Heim joints set correctly. If you have it too far out or too far in, it's going to move your A-arm out or in depending on how you have it set, depending on if it's upper or lower. We build everything with 4 threads showing. So if you'll start out with 4 threads, that'll get you really, really close to the ballpark. Now you need to remember this is a fabricated part, and you're putting it on a really old four-wheeler. So it's very possible for you to have something slightly bent, something slightly off, or for this to move slightly when it's welded. Now we take every precaution we can to keep this thing from moving at all. We run a jam nut system through here. We brace the ball joint pads down to the table, and then we brace the jam nut system back down to the table to try to keep everything from moving. But it is very possible for this to move a 32nd or a 16th of an inch. So if you'll start out with 4 threads on upper and lower, that'll get you really close to the ballpark. Now if your tire's leaning a little bit from there, you may have to adjust a thread or 2 depending on like where you need to go with your knuckle. But if you'll set it at 4 threads, that'll get you really, really close to the ballpark. Now you can start with upper or lower, or however you want to do it, but we're going to start with the lower and then move to the upper and go from there. I normally start out with just going ahead and putting the misalignment spacers in both Heim joints, getting my bolt set up, going ahead and getting it in the frame, and then I'll set my spindle or knuckle inside the ball joint pad. This is a machine fit, so it's kind of a tight fit. So you might have to wiggle it just a little back and forth, but it will go up in there. that's your lower. It's done. I normally leave everything loose. I leave my jam nuts loose. Leave everything as loose as you can leave it without it falling out until everything's installed. Check everything and then torque everything down to as tight as you can get it. So we're going to move on to the upper. Same thing as the lower. If you'll set around 4 threads on both sides, that'll get you really close in the ballpark where you need to be. Then you can kind of adjust it from there on your, depending on what your situation is. Same thing, go ahead and install the heim joints. I do my uppers a little different than I do my lowers. I'll kind of show you that. I normally start my back side, get a bolt in there, and then I kind of roll it around to do the front side. This is a machine fit on both of these, so it's a real tight fit. So there's like little tricks like that you can do that'll kind of help everything slide together a little easier, and you won't have these constantly falling out. The lower is a little easier to do by yourself. The upper is a little harder, just on the way it's set up. Normally, as you're kind of messing around with it, these misalignment spacers want to fall out. So if you'll get one side started and get a bolt in it to hold it, you can kind of mess around the other side and have both hands to kind of mess around with it. Like I said, it is a machine fit, so you'll kind of have to tap it with your hand a little bit to get everything to slide on up in there. So let's go ahead and put this one in. That's all there is to it. Like I say, if you'll start that back or your front, you want to start one side or the other, and then you can kind of wiggle your other side in there. It helps out a lot. Trying to fight both of them going in there at the same time, a lot of times you'll start losing these misalignment spacers. They'll want to fall out. Probably the most aggravatingest thing on the whole thing is getting the nut on your bottom ball joint. If you install it this way with the axle already on. Now, like I say, this was built around a 420 shock, so I'm gonna go grab the 420 shock. And I did realize I kind of did steering a little backwards. I've got this heim joint that kind of stays in there that we don't take out for when we build the everything for the steering. So I'm gonna pull this upper A-arm back off, put the steering on there, and then I'll show you how we put that on. And I'll go grab that 420 shock so we can bolt everything up and kind of test it out. So we got the steering all hooked up, got the 420 shock mounted, and I want to go over this steering deal a little bit because this is probably the most complicated deal about the whole lift kit. It'll come with 1/2-inch heim joints, and I've been setting the top side that goes to your steering stem around 3 threads, 2 to 3 threads, and then adjusting the outside to match whatever knuckle or spindle setup you got and wherever it needs to be. When I first started doing this, I was bottoming the top side out and then adjusting the outside, but it seems like it works better around 2 or 3 threads up here, locking down your locking nut and then adjusting your outside to fit whatever you got on the outside. The heim joints that come with these are 1/2-inch heim joints. Your bolt hole for your steering stem and your knuckle is 12 millimeters. I cannot get, or I cannot find at the moment, a 12 millimeter correct misalignment spacer for the 1/2-inch heim joints. Probably just not even going to be a thing because there wouldn't be enough there to even machine down. So what we're going to do is we're going to send 1/2-inch bolts, and we're going to recommend that you drill out your knuckle and your steering stem to 1/2 inch. So you'll
be drilling out 1 millimeter. Just take a 1/2 inch drill bit, run it through there, and put the 1/2 inch bolts in there. The 1/2 inch bolts come with the nylon locking nut, so you should never have a problem. We might even send lock-in washers with them also, just to be on the safe side. You can get some 12 millimeter bolts and run through there and you wouldn't have to drill them out. But I've tried it on these and you still have a little bit of play. It's very, very slight play once you tighten everything down. But if you start riding and you ride hard, stuff's gonna loosen up and you're gonna get a little bit of play. But anyways, we got this side all hooked up. It's lower zone, upper zone, shocks sitting there, and steering's all hooked up. And that's all it is to it. Ain't a whole lot to it. Everything should, once you get it on, should be set to go. And that's it. Torque everything down. Make sure all your locking nuts are pretty tight. You wanna, I wouldn't put no Loctite on them, but I definitely torque them down pretty decent. And you get all that done, tighten everything up, torque all your shocks and everything down, you're set and ready to roll.